Hey, this is Hans from Dakota Angler and Outfitter. Today we are going to tie the Ripple Ice Fiber baitfish. And it's just a cool way to use Ripple Ice Fiber in a stacked color configuration to get a cool baitfish pattern. I'm going to tie this on a new Ahrex Trout Predator hook. This is a size 4. If you wanted to tie this in larger sizes for bass or pike, you could definitely use a larger Ahrex or partridge style predator hook. First thing I'm going to do is put just a little tiny bit of super glue on the hook shank because I'm going to use a finer gel spun thread, and I find that having just a little bit of glue on the hook shank makes it easier for that thread to gain hold of the hook shank and not slip around later on. I'll trim that off. So first material, we're going to use just a little bit of Ripple Ice Fiber and Pearl. We're just going to take some longer fibers, tie those in. You can, so you don't waste any, tie in that clump like that, and then just fold that back on itself like that. There we go. Next we're going to take a groovy bunny strip. You can mess around with the color combinations. This is kind of a white, tan, yellow combination. Tie that on top of the flash. Come in here, we'll trim that off. There we go. And I'm going to advance my thread forward just a couple of wraps. I'll tie in a couple of clumps of fine black barred marabou from Hareline. This is the wood duck color. And I'm going to tie in a clump on the near side. And then also a clump on the far side of the hook. Once those are tied in, we can take our scissors and just get rid of the excess there. There we go. Cover up those ends. Then I'm going to add some gills by taking a wrap of red polar reflector flash. So tie in the flash material. And then make 2 or 3 wraps. You don't need a lot. That polar reflector. Tie that off. Trim off the excess. Then you can take your bodkin there and just tease out everything. Make sure you don't trap down too much. There we go. And now I'm going to start with the head of the fly. I'm just going to wrap back just a little bit. And what we're going to do is alternate clumps of Ripple Ice Fiber. And I'll start on the bottom. And when you pull a clump out of the bag, it's going to be fairly long. So what I'm doing down on the tying bench is kind of evening up those fibers as best I can. And then getting a clump that's, we'll trim it a little bit later, but on average about 2 inches long. So I'll go to the bottom side of my hook, And right in the middle of that clump on the bottom of the hook, I'll tie that in, fold right in the middle of the clump, and then I'm going to fold back the material that's facing forward and put a couple wraps in front, and that'll stack it up right. So then roughly on top of that, I'm going to go with my alternating color. Here I'm using copper. Do the same thing, get a clump, kind of even it up into about 2 inches. I'm going to tie that in right on the top of the hook shank, fold it back, and wrap in front. Sometimes, there we go. Just want to make sure that it stands up, it doesn't lean forward anymore. Then we'll go back to the bottom of the hook. Same thing with the clump of pearl. Tie it right on the bottom. Oh, try not to get your previous clump caught up in it. Separate that, fold it back, tie it down. Go back to the top. Switching back to copper. You're just going to keep working that alternating color scheme all the way to the front. There we go. There's a bunch of different colors of this ripple ice, so you can change it up to mimic whatever color bait fish you want. I think you could do some pretty cool flies on a larger scale for pike and bass with this technique too. Maybe one more small clump of each. Alright, one last copper. This last clump, we can kind of make sure Maybe we're going to wrap back onto the ripple ice fiber a little bit just to make sure it stays sliding off on me there a little bit. Come on. There we go. Stays back. And then we can whip finish. Take off our thread. So now we've got our two colors. Pick that out a little bit with our bodkin. Take your scissors and trim that. A little taper into a bait fish head. Oops. Flatten that out a little bit on the sides, where I'm going to put some eyes in there. Go ahead and grab our fish skull eyes. And we will glue those in place. Going to use a little brush on super glue. Go to the other side. Put on our other eye. Usually after I put on the eyes, I like to do just a little final trim. That sandwiching those eyes on there then flattens out the head. You can get too carried away, I think, sometimes trimming, but make sure you get a nice taper. But that's the basic template there. A lot of different options based on all the variety of colors you can find those materials in. But a really neat way to stack those colors and get a realistic coloration of a bait fish with plenty of sparkle and flash. So give yourself a nice box full of a new streamer pattern by messing around with the new Hareline Ripple Ice Fiber. Thanks for watching.